Good Friday morning. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Breaking just moments ago, push for approval. Pfizer announcing its first steps in formally applying for final FDA approval of their coronavirus vaccine. How that process is expected to play out and what it means for distribution across the country. Rebuilding America. President Biden in southern Louisiana yesterday touting his $2 trillion American jobs plan with a sharp focus on failing infrastructure.
Truth is, across the country, we have failed. We have failed to properly invest in infrastructure for half a century.
His message to the American people and how he plans to pay for another blockbuster piece of legislation. School bus drama. Authorities in South Carolina say an Army trainee hijacked a school bus while armed with a gun, with the driver and several students still on board. We'll bring you the latest details on the terrifying ordeal. And flower shortage, that perfect gift for mom in short supply this year. Why florists are raising prices just in time for Mother's Day. We are going to get right to that breaking news in the race to vaccinate against the coronavirus.
Pfizer is now applying for full FDA approval of its 2-dose COVID vaccine. Right now, it only has emergency use authorization. Getting FDA approval could give the vaccine rollout a major boost. Let's get to NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez. So, Isa, let's start with that breaking news. Can you explain what this approval would mean?
Good morning, Joe. So like you said, we know that right now the Pfizer vaccine is authorized under emergency use authorization by the FDA. Now, that's reserved for medical countermeasures like these vaccines during a public health emergency like the COVID-19 pandemic. Full approval by the FDA requires a company like Pfizer to submit more data. Now, right now, there is no COVID-19 vaccine here in the U.S. that's been fully approved by the FDA. So what this could mean, if the Pfizer vaccine is fully approved by them, it could make it much easier for businesses, governments, and even schools to mandate the vaccine. Now, I also want to point out that Pfizer also announced this morning that they submitted an application to expand their EUA, their emergency use authorization, for the vaccine to also be available for kids 12 to 15. This comes about a month after they released data from their trials showing that their vaccine was safe and effective for kids in this age group.
Yeah,
Joe?
so let's talk about that. So children 12 to 15 could start getting the Pfizer vaccine as early as next week if the FDA authorizes that. But Moderna just released new data on its trial on teenagers. What did they find?
That's right, Joe. So Moderna said that their vaccine is 96% effective in kids ages 12 to 17. They also said that in their trials, they found that the vaccine was generally well tolerated among this age group and that there were no serious safety concerns either. They've said that later this month, they'll be submitting an application to expand their EUA for the vaccine to be administered to this age group as well. Joe?
Right now, only 16 and 17-year-olds can get vaccinated when we're talking about folks who aren't adults yet. Do we know if parents are ready to get their children vaccinated?
Yeah, Joe. So according to recent polling by the KFF, we know that the majority of parents either feel that they're more comfortable to wait and see whether or not to allow their children to get vaccinated, or they're only planning on getting their kids vaccinated if it's required by the schools that they attend. So take a look at these numbers. 29% of parents said, yes, we will get our kids vaccinated right away. 47% said they want to wait and see, or they'll only do it if it's required by their schools. 19% said that they will not allow their kids to get vaccinated. And then 2% said that their kids are already vaccinated. That's, of course, referring to parents with kids 16 and older. Now, when you look at the numbers from parents with kids between the ages of 12 and 15, these percentages, these numbers are similar. Joe?
The key might be what schools require heading back into school next fall. All right, Isa, thank you so much.
Let's now bring in NBC News medical contributor Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good morning. So let's talk about Pfizer applying for FDA approval. First, tell us what this approval process is like, and then just remind us, is this a process that we're going to see for all the vaccines that Americans are already receiving?
Well, yes, to answer the second part of your question first, Savannah, I do expect that this is going to happen with all of them, probably Moderna in short order. It's always about a week or two behind Pfizer. So, just to review, the EUA is granted after safety data of about 2 months is acquired. To apply for full approval, which is called a biologics licensing application or a BLA, the FDA requires at least 6 months of data. As Issa pointed out, having a full approval does facilitate certain things: distribution, marketing, which means that the drug company or the pharmaceutical company rather can market directly to doctors' offices, directly to pharmacies, so that we don't have to go through the channels, everything being mandated, if you will, or executed by the government. So it certainly will facilitate vaccine distribution throughout the country, Savannah.
And Dr. Azar, what do you think it's going to mean for vaccine confidence to get full FDA approval? I mean, we just heard there from Issa that 19% of parents won't get their kids vaccinated at all. 47%, something like that, want to wait or see if it's required. Could today's news change that? Do you think that full FDA approval eventually will mean more people are going to do this, especially for their kids?
Well, I think that that's the expectation. And I think inherent in that is just the time frame. Remember, we've talked about this a lot when the whole blood clot issue with the Johnson & Johnson vaccine came up. Remember, these clinical trials for the vaccines are done over a period of many, many months. However, when there are rarer side effects, they often do not emerge until more people are vaccinated. Millions of people are vaccinated. And, quite frankly, I completely understand why parents would be slightly hesitant and say, look, I would rather wait another 3 to 6 months after children are being vaccinated to see if anything happens. I think most of us who are very likely to get our kids vaccinated sooner have a trust in the process, a trust in the science, and we feel that the benefit to protect our families and our children outweighs those theoretical risks.
And Dr. Azar, finally, let's talk about this weekend, Mother's Day. We will probably see more families gathering as we have for holidays throughout COVID. But if everyone is not vaccinated, walk us through how people can celebrate safely here.
Look, I mean, if you're not vaccinated and you're visiting grandma or something like that, I would really, really encourage people to do it outside. Hopefully, in many parts of the country, the weather will cooperate with that. You really want to protect your loved ones in this instance. So again, if you're vaccinated, feel free to gather indoors without masks. But anyone who isn't vaccinated, especially anybody older, although that number is declining, really should be done outside with masks, Savannah.
Yeah. And Dr. Azar, do you feel better going into this holiday weekend with where we are at with vaccinations? I mean, we've been having this conversation about spikes after holidays, but that was before we had this tool.
Right. No, I think it's wonderful. I mean, there's, we're hearing about, pockets like San Francisco, for example, who are just doing incredibly well, based largely on their vaccination numbers, as well as the mitigation measures that they kept in place until their population was vaccinated. That's not really rocket science. This was what we always wanted to see. And if we're seeing that happen in more and more places in the country, I think everybody can feel much more confident about going into the summer. But remember, any places where the vaccination rates are down and or mitigation strategies are loosened and or variants are on the rise, we're going to see pockets of surges. And that's, that's the expectation. But how to do it right, that we already know how to do, Savannah. It's just a matter of doing it.
All right, Dr. Azar, thank you so much. And happy Mother's Day to you. I hope your beautiful children celebrate you well.
Several Republican-led states are moving forward with restrictive voting laws following the 2020 election. In Texas this morning, the Republican-led State House of Representatives advanced a bill that Democrats say would empower partisan poll watchers. The legislation would also make it a state felony for election officials to distribute mail ballot applications unless a voter asks for it first. Democrats filed more than 100 amendments last night in an attempt to derail the legislation. Well, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis signed the state's new voting regulations into law yesterday. NBC News correspondent Sam Brock explains what's changing and why voting rights groups are crying foul.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signing the latest controversial state voting law that he says will make elections more secure.
We're going to make sure our elections are transparent. We're also going to continue with voter ID, which is very, very important to make sure that you are who you say you are.
DeSantis raising eyebrows, making it official on Fox News.
I'm actually going to sign it right here.
With no other media outlets allowed in, though Fox says it did not request or mandate that the event be exclusive.
Governor was on national TV. It wasn't secret.
The new law zeroes in on voting by mail, requiring an ID to request a mail-in ballot, limiting drop boxes to where they can be monitored in person, and prohibiting so-called ballot harvesting.
It's not for some political operative to get a satchel full of votes and dump them off.
A lot of this legislation to me looks like a large straw man. You're constructing an enemy, you're constructing fraud, you're constructing an opponent that doesn't practically exist.
The NAACP and other groups now suing, saying the law deters minority voters and slamming it as an attack on the right to vote, noting twice as many black voters cast mail-in ballots in 2020 as compared to previous years.
It's voter suppression, and it's a direct backlash to the increased black voter turnout in Florida that we saw in 2020.
NBCNews.com senior reporter Jane Tim joins us now to take a closer look at this issue. So, Jane, you were closely following that fight over the Texas voting bill overnight. The bill passed with some amendments. So what does the bill look like right now?
Yeah, so I'm still reading through the bill because it's not available online yet. I'm reading through some of these amendments, trying to patch it together. But what's clear is that in the wee hours of the morning, Democrats used a procedural challenge to soften up some of these elements of the bill. It was a very long bill with a lot of things that worried advocates. And it looks like some of them have been watered down, along with Democrats accomplishing some of their own aims. Like I was just reading an amendment that adds sort of a ballot tracking system for voters, mail ballots. Now, not many people in Texas can vote by mail, but if you can, tracking that ballot is something that happened a lot in the 2020 election because of COVID, and it really helped voters. So clearly Democrats have made the best of what looks like a procedural challenge that could have delayed the bill for several more days. So they promise an all-night amendment floor fight, and that ran from about 6 to 9 last night. And then they went in back rooms, and we waited and waited and waited. And then shortly around 3 a.m. here, they pushed it through with a bunch of these amendments. Still got to finish getting all those details for you.
We know you'll keep an eye on it. Looking ahead now, this, I guess, moves to the Senate. Do Democrats have any chance of stopping it or changing it there?
So after it goes to the Senate, it's not likely to be accepted. So when you change a bill in House, it's going to go through and they'll say, they can either accept it as is or they can send it to conference committee. Conference committee is sort of what we're expecting, where lawmakers will work with each other and try and hammer out the various details of the bill and try and reconcile it with the Senate version. And the Senate version, as we know, limits early voting options and makes a number of changes. So I think you can expect to see this bill change again before it hits the governor's desk, but it'll come back for one more voice vote through the chambers before it does that.
Jane, let's take a closer look at the Florida legislation now. Voting rights advocates are upset with this. What are some of the specific changes they say could suppress voter turnout and impact minority voters?
Yeah, mail voting was championed by voters of color across the country who turned to it in new numbers. And restrictions like these, all mail, sort of voting changes, like these small changes that make it a little harder, tend to hit minority communities harder, who just are more likely to be working first responder jobs, shift work, the kind of things where voting options actually are the difference between whether or not you cast your ballot or not. So that's where we advocates worry so much when you see these small changes that they're going to disenfranchise the communities who otherwise just wouldn't be able to vote.
All right. Jane Tim, thank you so much.
President Biden's focus on the nation's infrastructure took center stage during his trip Thursday to Lake Charles, Louisiana, as part of his pitch for his $2.3 trillion American Jobs Plan.
I'm ready to compromise. What I'm not ready to do, I'm not ready to do nothing. I'm not ready to have another period where America has another infrastructure month and doesn't change a damn thing.
NBCNews.com senior White House reporter Shannon Pettypiece joins us now. Shannon, good morning. So President Biden went to a solidly red state to deliver that speech that we just heard a little bit of. What else did he say while trying to sell this plan to voters there?
Well, you mentioned it's a red state. He was touting a bit of Republican support there that he has at the local level. The mayor of Lake Charles, one of the places he made a stop, recently wrote an op-ed advocating for this infrastructure plan he's trying to get through and making the case that it's needed for Louisiana's future. Now, the president really tried to keep the focus on the hardcore nut and bolts infrastructure parts of this plan, the roads, the bridges. You saw him there in those remarks, making a speech right in front of the bridge and making the case that this funding is needed. Here's a little bit more of what the president had to say.
Every single thing, from the deck of an aircraft carrier to a railing in a new building, is going to be built by an American company, American workers, American supply chain, so that we invest American tax dollars in American workers. And that's what we're going to do. I promise you.
And of course, all of this to try to build public support in hopes that that translates into support in Washington, because right now there does not yet appear to be a clear path forward for this legislation on a bipartisan way.
Yeah, I want to ask you about bipartisan support in just a moment. But first, let's talk about how he's going to pay for this. So, of course, the big issue here is that huge price tag. We heard him lay out to Congress how he wants to pay for it. What do you say about that yesterday? Did he make that case strong again?
Yeah, it's interesting. That was a big focus of the speech, too. And it gets almost into more of an ideological argument rather than we need these roads because it's important for our country's future, but an ideological argument of who should pay for it. And that President Biden making the case the wealthy, the corporations need to raise their tax rate to pay for this and really sort of putting the pressure on the wealthy and corporations to step up. Here's a little bit more of what the president had to say there.
Let me explain how we pay for this, because I'm not a deficit spender. Because, we had a tax cut the other team put in back in 2017, and it created a $2 trillion deficit, with the vast majority of that going to the top 1/10 of 1% of the wage earners. I don't want to punish anybody. You're entitled to be a millionaire or a billionaire. Just pay your fair share.
And we have really seen the president in the past few days double down on this message, making the case that a tax increase on the wealthy and corporations is going to be the best way to pay for this.
And Shannon, let's now go back to what's going on with Republicans here. We're learning about Republican negotiations with Biden over this plan. What are they calling for?
Well, my colleague Garrett Haake, he sat down with Senator Capito, a Republican in West Virginia, who's trying to hammer out the bipartisan plan to counter President Biden's proposal. She's got about a $600 billion proposal. She said that's not a final offer. That's a starting place to negotiation. But she said she is unwilling to budge on the corporate tax rate. Hence, you hear Biden really continuing to make the case for the need to raise taxes on corporations to pay for this plan. The president is expected to have meetings with Republicans and Democratic lawmakers at the White House next week. He's also got a meeting planned with leadership in the House and the Senate. So the White House is pushing forward on this bipartisan route. But, a White House official told me last week they want to see some significant progress by Memorial Day, or they're going to start to reassess whether this bipartisanship effort is going to work.
All right. Well, they got a couple weeks still then. Shannon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
In South Carolina, a soldier in training is behind bars this morning, accused of hijacking a bus full of kids and holding them at gunpoint. Surveillance video captured the terrifying ordeal. It happened yesterday morning near the state's capital of Columbia. Sheriff's officials say 18 elementary school students were on the bus when a 23-year-old U.S. Army trainee who came from nearby Fort Jackson came on board with a rifle and pointed it at the driver. He eventually let everyone off the bus and was arrested a short time later. When it was found, the gun had no ammunition and no one was hurt.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken is calling on Russia to end its, quote, reckless and aggressive troop movements at the Ukrainian border. He made the comments yesterday during a meeting in Ukraine with President Zelensky. NBC's Andrea Mitchell spoke exclusively with Secretary Blinken after the visit.
U.S. officials say Russia still has nearly 80,000 troops on the Ukraine border, instead of withdrawing most of its forces by May 1st, as it claimed. the Secretary of State on Russia's alarming show of force.
Will the U.S. defend Ukraine if Vladimir Putin invades?
So what we've seen, Andrea, is that there was a massive buildup of forces on the Ukrainian border. Some of those forces have pulled back, but significant forces remain. Some of the heavy equipment has been pulled back, but other heavy equipment remains, and they can turn that around fairly quickly.
Secretary Blinken is also warning Ukraine of a problem from within, rampant corruption.
Doesn't that show that Ukraine has not proved that it can reform?
Well, Ukraine has aggression coming from outside, from Russia, but also inside in terms of corruption that potentially eats away at its democracy. Corruption is a tool that Russia uses to try to erode Ukrainian sovereignty from the inside.
And for the past year, the government's total failure dealing with the pandemic. With a population of 42 million people, only 419 are fully vaccinated. Now yielding to international pressure, the White House agreeing to support waiving vaccine patents so more nations can manufacture their own.
Critics say that this will affect supply chains and that we could face shortages ourselves back in the U.S.
If the virus is replicating anywhere, it could be mutating. And if it's mutating with a new variant, it could come back here and bite us even after people have been vaccinated. So we have to get ahead of that, and we have to get ahead of it around the world.
The biggest challenge for Ukraine is Russia. The Biden administration's commitment is to help Ukraine defend itself with weapons, but not get involved militarily if Russia decides to cross that border. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, Kiev.
Let's take a look at what's making news around the world this morning.
Claudio Lavanga joins us now from Rome. Good morning, Claudio.
Good morning, Savannah. Good morning, Joe. Well, President Biden's announcement that he will support a waiver on patents of COVID-19 vaccines are really dividing political leaders around here in Europe. Now, the president of France, Emmanuel Macron, said that he is absolutely in favor of that move, while Angela Merkel is openly against it. Now, the German chancellor said that not only a waiver will not increase production of a vaccine against COVID-19, but it will also inhibit research in the future in the private sector. Now, going elsewhere in the world, China and Australia's diplomatic relations are literally on ice as both countries are planning to build huge runways in the contended territory of Antarctica. Now, Australia wants to build a 1.6-mile long runway near one of its research outposts, while China wants to do something even bigger. It wants to build an airport, a whole airport near one of its own research centers over there. You can call it the start of a strategic Cold War, perhaps. And last but not least, the first floating farm in the world is in deep water, apparently, as 2 cows now fell off it, almost drowning. Now the floating farm was inaugurated and opened in Rotterdam, Holland, in 2019. The cows can get out of the platform using a bridge to go on the dockside where they can graze on a little patch of grass, but 2 of them on the way back missed the bridge and fell into the water. Well, I suppose that cows don't really have a sense of directions today, guys.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Hopefully they can find a solution to that.
Yeah, really. All right, Claudio, thank you.
Yeah, just don't do a floating farm.
That might be one solution.
That
All right.
might be it.
Thank you, Claudio. Let's get a check on your morning news now, weather.
Bill Cairns is here. Hey, Bill.
You guys, did you hear when Claudio, he threw in the Cold War reference to the runways in Antarctica?
Yes.
Pretty good.
Yeah. It was pretty good, yes. And he made me chuckle today. All right, so let's get to this Mother's Day forecast, because it's not a simple one, and we do have some people that your plans may have to be altered, especially if you're going to be planning any outdoor activities and outdoor dining. So we have some light rain moving now through areas of the Ohio Valley. So this storm will be long gone by Mother's Day. But that's just a heads up to my friends in Pittsburgh and also Raleigh. There's going to be a little bit of light rain today, including Washington, D.C. And it's kind of chilly for this time of year, too. Many areas are still in the 40s and 30s, so light jackets recommended for everyone as you head out the door, but it will warm up this afternoon a little bit at least. Chicago today near 60. D.C., there's that light rain, 66. And you notice where all the warmth is. Texas, the Rockies, all the way through the Southwest, very warm once again. And we'll also have a little bit of light rain for our friends in the Northwest. So let's get to that weekend forecast. kind of a cool, raw, damp day. New York City, not pretty Saturday. Albany, back through Scranton, all the way through Binghamton, Syracuse, Rochester, Buffalo. All those areas will be cool and damp. And there's that new storm in the middle of the country. And sorry, Mom, not the best forecast for areas from St. Louis, Indianapolis, Ohio, Lexington, Louisville, back down through Paducah, Evansville. Those areas may see a lot of rain on Mother's Day. Chance of thunderstorms in Arkansas. It will be dry and nice for everyone on the eastern seaboard. We could see some late day rain moving to New York City. It will be after like 6 p.m. or so, guys. So that won't be too bad. For all our friends on the West Coast, it looks like fabulous for any of your plans for Mom.
Good news for Savannah's mom.
Well, actually, my mom's visiting me.
Oh, never mind
because
that.
they got vaccinated, so they're coming here. It's her birthday on Mother's Day. I was just thinking, poor thing, she's leaving the sunshine for the rain, but at least we'll be together. Thanks, Bill.
Yes.
Coming up, new data affirms that anti-Asian attacks in some of America's largest cities have spiked over the past year.
The efforts being made to stop the hate up next.
The extent of former President Trump's continued influence on the Republican Party will be on full display today. Representatives Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, both fierce Trump supporters, are kicking off what they're calling the America First Tour. First stop, The Villages, a well-known retirement community in Central Florida. That is where we find NBC's Leanne Caldwell. So, Leanne, for Gaetz and Greene, what's the goal with this tour? Why are they doing it?
Well, Joe, that's right. This is a retirement community, but it's also a must stop on any conservative politician's tours. This community voted for President Trump by 69% in 2016 and 2020. And Gaetz and Greene have taken the America First tour on the road, and this is their first stop. And what they're trying to do is show loyalty to the president and call out and point out the wing of the party that does not do so. And so they plan to do a tour across the country, and they came here to the Villages first, Joe.
So how do other Republicans view this tour? Now, is this part of a larger party strategy at all?
Well, Gaetz and Greene are both controversial members within the Republican Party. There are sexual misconduct allegations against Matt Gaetz. Marjorie Taylor Greene has lost her committee assignments over controversial things she has said. So when I speak to Republican sources back in Washington in the among House Republicans, they say that this is not part of the larger Republican strategy. These are two members who are doing their own thing. But it's really hard to not compare what is happening with Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, showing their deep respect and loyalty to the former president, compared to what is happening in Washington, where Representative Liz Cheney is losing her position in leadership. Joe?
Yeah, Leanne, let's talk more about that. I mean, the party's been in the headlines all week for the leadership fight because of Congresswoman Cheney's views on President Trump. And the expectation is that she could soon be voted out as GOP conference chair for taking a stand against the former president. We know Matt Gaetz actually went to Wyoming just to make a point against Liz Cheney earlier this year. I mean, right now, do anti-Trump Republicans have a place in the party, or do Gaetz and Greene have so much of the power right now despite all the controversy surrounding them?
Well, Representative Cheney is trying to fight for the soul of the Republican Party and maintain a place in there for an anti-Trump wing of the party. But she is being crowded out at this point, and her likely replacement, Representative Elise Stefanik, has spent the past couple days trying to embrace the president as much as possible to show the Republican Party that she is willing to be on their side and to prove that the former president is still the leader of the party. So over the past week, the dynamics that have happened are really showing that the Republican Party is once again moving in the direction of the former president, and they have no plans to let him go anytime soon. Joe.
All right. Leanne Caldwell, thank you so much.
Attacks on Asian Americans are still on the rise nationwide, according to new data. A report released yesterday by the group Stop AAPI Hate says more than 6,600 anti-Asian attacks were reported between March of last year and March of this year. This comes on the heels of a report that shows a 164% increase in anti-Asian hate crimes compared to last year. NBC News correspondent Vicky Nguyen details some of the latest attacks. And we do want to warn you, some of the video we're about to show you is disturbing.
Good morning. May is Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, but it's been a difficult time to celebrate with ongoing violence against Asian Americans. New data from Stop AAPI Hate shows more than 6,600 incidents of anti-Asian hate reported since last March. This morning, how the community is responding.
In New York City, police have recorded at least 40 anti-Asian attacks this year, including an assault with a hammer, another man beaten into a coma while gathering cans. Dozens of business owners gathered in Brooklyn to stop Asian hate.
We will not accept any of this going on in not only our community, not only in our city, but in this country.
I was so scared. What if the guy go crazy, have a gun or knife?
Earlier this week in Washington, D.C., store owner Chong Hu Lu says he received 14 stitches after a man punched him.
You Chinese people, I hate you.
And in San Francisco, a man has been booked on charges of attempted murder, accused of stabbing 2 Asian women who were waiting for a bus. Police data from 16 major cities showed a 164% increase in reports of anti-Asian hate crimes compared to the same time last year.
This could be my mother. It scares me, and I think it also just sort of frustrates me.
The newly formed Asian American Foundation has raised $250 million to respond to the rise in anti-Asian violence and discrimination.
We're going to invest in data and research. We're going to fund education. Asian American history should be a part of American history.
Asian American advocates say another way anyone can help: take bystander training. It's offered in many communities so that when you see something happening, you have skills to safely intervene. Back to you.
Coming up, Caitlyn Jenner's on the campaign trail seeking the office of the governor of California.
How the LGBTQ community is reacting to her candidacy so far. Next.
Caitlyn Jenner is on the campaign trail as she tries to convince voters she's the best choice for governor of California. The former Olympian and reality TV star is challenging current Governor Gavin Newsom in an all but certain recall election. Jenner has caught attention for comments made during an interview on Fox News.
My friends are leaving California. Actually, were my hangar. The guy across right over from me, he was packing up his hangar. I said, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I'm moving to Sedona, Arizona. I can't take it here anymore. I can't walk down the streets and see the homeless." I don't want to leave. Okay, either I stay and fight or I get out of here.
For more on this, I want to bring in Joe Yerkeba, associate editor at NBC Out. Joe, good morning. Thanks for being with us. So now that 20-second soundbite has a lot of folks calling Jenner out of touch. And I think, discussing your airplane hangar and the homeless community at the same time, of course, will open you up to criticism. But I really want to talk with you about how, as a trans woman herself, Caitlyn Jenner is trying to appeal to the transgender community. She also discussed that in this interview. Let's listen to what she had to say.
Trans issues people struggle with big time. Our suicide rate is 9 times higher than the general public. And for me to be a role model for them, to be out there, I am running for governor of the state of California. Who would have ever thunk that? We've never even had a woman governor.
So, Joe, first, let's talk about how important this demographic is to Jenner's campaign.
Yeah, so trans people, only make up 1% to 2% of the U.S. population. So it's really not like she needs the trans vote to win. But about 3/4 of Americans generally support non-discrimination protections for all LGBTQ people. And the majority also oppose this new wave of legislation we're seeing targeting trans people. So how the stances that she takes on those issues will certainly affect whether she gets the votes of people who support LGBTQ people as well.
So actually, that's exactly what I want to ask you about next. In that same interview, Jenner also doubled down on her opposition to trans girls playing on girls' sports teams at school. This is something that we have heard quite a bit about lately. Tell us why this issue has become so divisive and how it might not affect just this recall race, but several pieces of legislation already in the works.
Yeah, certainly. So 7 states now have banned trans girls from participating on girls' sports teams at school. And another bill sits on the desk of the Florida governor. And so misinformation about trans people is really what's fueling these bills. And Jenner's comments on that as both a trans woman and an athlete really matter a lot. Already, the sponsor of a bill in Maine to limit trans athlete participation cited Jenner's comments during a hearing in the Senate for that bill. So it looks like already her comments are affecting these bills.
All right, Joe, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas says his department will focus on reuniting migrant families separated at the border. NBC's Jacob Soboroff sat down for an exclusive interview with the DHS chief, who revealed new details about his efforts to bring more than 1,000 parents and children back together.
Hey, you guys, as the Biden administration this week reunites for the first time families separated by the Trump administration, I sat down exclusively with the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, and Michelle Bernay, who is running the task force to reunite those families, to find out more details on the 1,000 still separated parents and children and how they're going to get them back together. As some families separated by the Trump administration reunite this week, we asked Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas if they'd be given permanent status.
We are very much focused on providing stability to the reunited families. It's not something we can guarantee at this point in time.
Over 1,000 families are still separated from the policy ended in 2018. The task force director says there may be more.
We are finding evidence of separations. We still have to go through and match up data and look at what led to those separations.
Mayorkas responding to calls for Trump officials to face accountability.
Accountability would not deliver necessarily justice for just the families.
You don't believe that any of those people deserve to be held accountable for their role in this?
That's not what I said. What I said was that we are focused on reuniting the families. That is the justice that we are focused upon achieving right now.
The secretary also told me, you guys, that not just parents, but even siblings of separated children might also be able to get permanent status here in the United States. Savannah, Joe?
India's COVID-19 crisis is getting worse by the day as cases skyrocket and vaccination rates decline. Many hospitals are past capacity, forcing them to turn away patients. Some U.S. doctors are joining the front lines to help the COVID battle in India from halfway around the world. NBC News Now correspondent Dasha Burns joins us now with more on this. Hi, Dasha. Good morning.
Hey, Savannah, good morning. That's exactly right. We met some doctors who are fighting against COVID-19 in India, but not in the way that you might expect. Doctors Avinash and Geeta Gupta are doctors here in the U.S., but as they watch the crisis grow in their motherland, they thought, we have to do something. Well, what can you do from over 8,000 miles away? Turns out you can save lives. Watch.
Doctors Avinash and Geeta Gupta just finished a 10-hour hospital shift at Monmouth Medical Center in New Jersey. Now at home, they gear up for a different kind of shift, triaging and treating COVID patients over 8,000 miles away. Avinash's library becomes his hospital room. Geeta's the living room.
Azithromycin, 5 days.
Together, they spend hours triaging and treating COVID patients over 8,000 miles away.
Twice daily.
India is in the throes of an apocalyptic second wave of COVID-19. More than 300,000 new daily cases for 2 weeks straight. The healthcare system at a breaking point.
There is no hospital beds. It's no oxygen, no even basic things, and they are really very scared.
So the Guptas sprang into action, launching a growing coalition of Indian American doctors from across the U.S., turning to telemedicine to help keep patients in India out of overwhelmed hospitals.
This way we can not clog the hospitals and leave the beds open for patients who are really sick.
They answer questions from patients and frightened family members.
Can I keep both mother and son in the same room?
Yes, you can.
They look over test results and recommend treatments.
Convenient. Let me know if you get worse or if there is any change or anything, okay?
How significant could this kind of help, could this kind of intervention be, even though you're doing it from afar through a screen?
It can save lives because now we know a lot about this disease. If we intervene at the right time, we can prevent a cytokine storm from coming, where the patients will crash and then we cannot do much.
It's a critical mission that's become personal for the Guptas.
This hits home on many levels for you both. My worst nightmare came true.
This week, Geeta's 87-year-old mother testing positive for the virus. And Avinash is living through loss himself.
I lost my brother-in-law, and I lost one sister also to this COVID.
You are processing your own grief. At the same time, you're actually taking action to help.
The best way to be happy is to go out and help other people. Being away from our motherland, we thought we have to do something when we are getting calls on a daily basis about people getting sick and no hospital beds, no oxygen, no medication.
These doctors on the new front line from a world away.
It's a global pandemic, of course, this is. So we have to take care of each other, yes.
Savannah, they do this 7 nights a week. Avinash tells me that there's a saying in India that the whole world is a family. He says we can't isolate ourselves, especially in the midst of a crisis like this. Savannah.
Oh my gosh, Dasha, 7 nights a week. And the fact that he said in there the best way to be happy is to get out and help other people. I mean, we need more people like the Guptas. Now, you mentioned in your piece there this coalition that they've created. Tell me about these other doctors that are jumping in to help this crisis going on in India.
Yeah, Savannah, we do need more people like the Guptas, and thankfully there are more people like the Guptas. They've been at it for a couple of weeks now, and they already have more than a dozen doctors from across the U.S. signed up. And Avinash tells me that he's getting calls every single day from doctors in Massachusetts, New York, Michigan, Texas, many of whom were on the front lines here during the worst of the pandemic, and they want to help in India as well. Savannah.
That is such good news. Dasha Burns, incredible piece. Thank you so much. Coming up, a flour shortage is apparently upon us just in time for Mother's Day. So how much more will you have to shell out to buy those flowers? We'll tell you next. All right, PSA, Mother's Day is this Sunday. And if you're planning on buying flowers, it might cost you. Flower prices are up by 20% in some places because of a nationwide shortage. Charlie Cole, CEO of FTD, one of the largest flower networks in the world, joins us now. Charlie, good morning. Now, this kind of surprised me because, I don't know, I thought maybe, we've all been inside for a year. The flowers are growing and they're happy because we haven't been disturbing them. But help us understand, why is there a flower shortage this year? What's been going on?
Hi, good morning, Savannah. It's sort of an amazing confluence of lots of things, and it starts with the fact that these seeds start their journey a year ago. And a year ago, we were really at the peak or kind of the first peak of COVID-19, and there was a labor shortage. And so you have to really contextualize it all the way a year back, and then exacerbating it throughout the last year between transportation difficulties, between, again, labor continues to be constrained. There was a large La Nina across Latin America, which affected it from an inclement weather perspective. And then finally, there's just more demand. And, the nice part about what we do is flowers and gifts have been a great way to say hello and share love in a time where it's been really hard to do that in person.
And how's this shortage impacted your company's approach to Mother's Day?
So we are very fortunate because our supply chain is diversified by a collective of florists across the United States. And I think across the last year, we've had to really put our back into supporting our florists. And in doing so, in focusing on the small business across America, which has been another real casualty of COVID-19, it's made our supply chain that much better and that much easier to kind of, meet customer demand. And so the short answer, Savannah, is our florists continue to bend over backwards for people across the U.S. and we're bending over backwards to them to try to support them however we can, whether it's getting access to flowers, simplifying designs, giving more flexibility to our florists to design to a consumer's needs. Whatever we can do to support them, they're really going to be the ones that make mom happy on Sunday.
And a great reminder that this can be supporting small businesses. So, Charlie, tell us, how much more is this going to cost us this year because of this shortage?
So what we're seeing on FTD's side is that prices aren't that much up from a consumer perspective. Our prices from an average order value perspective are actually flat. So sample size of one, Savannah, hopefully it won't hit the consumers that much. We have seen wholesale prices up anywhere from 10 to 40%, depending on the stem. A rose, a Gerber daisy, whatever it may be, can be vastly different. but it's a very regional thing. And so that's where for FTD, what we've been trying to do is give access to flowers from around the country and frankly, around the world. And that's been able to help keep our consumer prices relatively flat to last year.
Okay, well, that's good news. And Charlie, now people buy flowers year round. It's not just Mother's Day, whether it's a special event, a birthday, or you just want them in your house. So how long do you think the shortage will affect the flower industry moving forward?
It's going to be around for a while, to be honest, Savannah. And I think what you'll see is a gradual return to normalcy from a supply chain perspective over the course of the next year. And you can really kind of time it with how COVID was ebbing and flowing throughout last year across 2020. You know, we'll basically kind of rebound around hopefully the same time as the country. And that's all, again, largely based on we've been able to get more seeds in the ground over the course last year as labor's come back, as the ebbs and flows of COVID have really happened. And so I think you'll see a gradual return to normalcy throughout 2021.
And, you know, I think a lot of people, like here in New York City, we go to our bodegas to get flowers. A lot of people are picking them up at their grocery stores. Do you know how places like that are being affected when most people are just picking them up for their house?
Yeah, it's truly systemic. And so the shortage, I mean, there's the farms across the U.S. and across Latin America really supply everybody. And so I think you're going to see shortages. And if I could give one recommendation to everybody, buy now. You know, the earlier, the better. The best way for you as a consumer to mitigate it is to get out and shop earlier and hopefully with FTD. But I think what's more important is, again, just make sure mom's happy. I think that's the key, and the earlier, the better.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Charlie Cole, FDT CEO, says buy him now. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Savannah.
Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg has called it, quote, racism built into our highways, black communities destroyed by the building projects of the past. As Joe Biden targets money to address that damage, NBC News Now correspondent Maura Barrett traveled to Minnesota to hear from one community who says the freeway ripped the heart out of their town.
We're walking over I-94.
And this all used to be houses and businesses.
This was all houses. This is Rondo Avenue here. There were 4 shops right on that corner there. Every cross street would have a grocery store. So it was a walking community.
So you grew up on this block?
I did. You knew pretty much everyone who went, drove, or walked down the street.
The Rondo neighborhood was the heart of the black community in St. Paul, Minnesota. Starting in 1956, the homes, businesses, community centers decimated by the construction of a freeway. As a girl, Margaret Lovejoy watched it all happen.
I can relate it to living in a war zone for probably 5 or 6 years. First, it was the neighbors moving out. They had to move. And then their homes were destroyed. And to this day, I can see and feel that impact of that house just falling apart. Because I knew who had lived in that house.
That freeway is like a big, deep, open wound right in the middle of our community.
But it wasn't just here. In Florida, Overtown was the center of Black Miami. The I-95 tore through the neighborhood, wiping out countless homes as well as its thriving business district. In New Orleans, Louisiana, the I-10 cleared through North Claiborne Avenue, the center of a stable Black Creole community. Kansas City, Chicago, Boston, Detroit, New York City, Montgomery, Los Angeles. The list goes on and on.
An automotive age, traveling on time-saving superhighways.
The Federal Aid Highway Act of 1956 was one of the largest public works projects in American history. It added 41,000 miles to our interstate system. But it also displaced over 475,000 households between 1957 and 1977. A great many of those people were Black.
At the time, local governments were pursuing slum clearance projects. They leveled, quote, blighted areas all in the name of urban renewal. But blighted often just meant Black or not white. It didn't matter if the community was thriving economically.
The physical building of the highway destroyed Black communities. Black residents and families lost their home, which was their primary financial investment. They often did not get any reimbursement or sufficient reimbursement for that loss.
Melvin Carter is now the mayor of St. Paul.
Okay, so there's my grandpa.
His family lost their homes and business properties on Rondo.
I think about how my life might be different had I inherited the wealth, the properties, real estate that my grandfather and my grandmother began amassing on Old Rondo. And it seems like there could have been a different storyline there.
Before I-94 construction, Rondo was the only black community in St. Paul not considered a slum. After the highway, property values fell. But infrastructure didn't just break up black communities. It reinforced segregation by way of dead-end streets, often at the intersection of black and white communities, lack of sidewalks, and low-clearance bridges, purposely built to block public transportation like buses.
In many ways, big and small, we've used infrastructure and transportation policy to make it difficult for people to access other communities, for people to access opportunity, and for people to maintain that sense of community.
It's a tactic that was encouraged by the federal government itself. The 1938 Federal Housing Administration Underwriting Manual said an artificial barrier like a highway could protect a neighborhood from, quote, adverse influences like, quote, inharmonious racial groups. We still see the effects today. The Staten Island Expressway is referred to by some as the island's Mason-Dixon line. Black households on the island are concentrated north of the expressway. South of the expressway, the number noticeably drops. The Biden administration could be taking the first step to rebuilding these communities.
There is racism physically built into some of our highways. And that's why the jobs plan has dollars specifically committed to reconnect some of the communities.
President Biden's infrastructure plan seeks to invest $20 billion in transportation for communities harmed by past highway projects. Biden's plan hasn't been passed yet, but the people of Rondo are making plans to move forward on their own, with or without it.
Physically, we would like to reconnect the both sides of the freeway by putting a land bridge over the freeway, and you'll be able to walk on it. You'll be able to have housing on it. We'll be able to have places for small businesses, cultural center, a marketplace, an amphitheater.
This time, the construction aiming to create opportunity for their future generations, built anew on top of their family's past pain.
Rondo is not a unique situation. It's nationwide. Anywhere there's a interstate. But the DNA, the heart of community, I still think survives in people who were displaced.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.